Is your skill set as a UI designer actually good enough to get you hired in today's very difficult creative economy? Lots of companies are laying off, lots of people are looking for jobs. That job search and job hunt is very competitive, and right now only the cream of the crop are rising to the top. And so in today's video, I want to show you a bunch of examples of UI design, and I want to break them into three categories: what's not hireable, what's almost hireable, and what's not just hireable but extremely desirable in today's creative economy. We're about to take a look at real designs from real designers' portfolios, and we're going to lump them into categories of not hireable, somewhat, and very hireable. And that might seem kind of rude or mean, but it's not. I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I respect anybody that steps into the industry and seeks to up-level their skills and get better at their craft. We're going to use these as examples that all of us can take away, hopefully, and apply to a personal self-assessment and say, am I up to snuff? Do I make the cut with my current skill level? With that being said, we're gonna dive in and take a look first at some non-hireable mobile design work. Let's zoom into this very first project. And what we have here is just very much not a hireable design, not an impressive portfolio. And if you're asking, how do you know this isn't hireable? Because I hire designers and I wouldn't hire this designer if this is the work that they showed me. The reason I wouldn't hire this designer is because it seems to me like they have an immature understanding of user interface design and layout specifically, right? We have kind of interactable areas like this circular scrub bar that are pushed all the way out to the edge. That's a bad example, but down below we have these massive tap points. I mean, talk about a fat thumbs issue. This interface is made for Andre the Giant. It's just unbalanced and it starts to feel a little bit immature. The spacing is off, contrast and color is off, and those are the types of things that really quickly a seasoned hiring manager or design or director or art director can immediately pinpoint and say, not hireable. Let's jump over to the second example. In this example, we just have an abuse of color, an overuse of color. And in this case, can you guess what color it is? It's blue. This blue color is actually killing what could be probably a pretty clean design. And you know that the color is being killed or used and abused when you take a look at the byproducts of the design because of the color. For instance, my heart icon over here, very, very tough to see. The contrast on that is bad because of the color. These immature drop shadows here are an example of this designer not knowing how to create contrast because they're using all these weird shades of blue on top of blue on top of blue. If you see drop shadows, are one of two things: a stylistic choice to add something cool, or a panic button because we don't know how to make the content separate off the background. In this case, it's a panic button. So we just have this use and abuse of color. There's probably some bad spacing we could talk about here, but that makes this design incredibly undesirable and not hireable. In our last example, there's actually not a lot wrong here. It actually fixes a lot of the things we saw in the previous designs, right? We're not using and abusing any sort of drop shadow or color. We're being selective with that. We're using standardized patterns. It all seems to be working. So why isn't this design hireable? Because it's boring. At the end of the day, this design looks cookie cutter. It looks like AI generated it in just a few minutes, and we need to be able to do better than AI to get us hired in this tough market. Let's take a look at some almost hireable designs, and you might disagree, but I'll just zoom in and we'll start here with this one. This design is actually really beautiful. We're actually improving a lot from those non-hireable designs. We actually are using color really sparse for our call to action. The grids and the charts are well done. Imagery is great, art direction. The problem we see here is that this design is a much better dribble shot than it is a production ready application. And people that are hiring right now are not hiring for your dribble portfolio. They want to see that you can design at scale. That means structure. That means we want to make sure that you're working within a system. There's some things on a basic design level that are wrong here, like size of tap points, overdoing spacing. It's just a little bit much. You might say that's a stylistic choice, but that stylistic choice is going to really start to break down when we need art direction for our imagery to actually overlap our interface elements. That's going to be problematic. Coding this is going to be a nightmare. And so this designer is showing just a level of slight immaturity, like they've never worked in a product team. They don't know what it's like to actually launch products at scale, and that makes them almost hireable. It would depend on who's taking a look at the work. In this next example of almost hireable, we have some really cool things happening here. We have some really interesting and unique. It's not boring at all. So why is this just almost hireable and not fully hireable? Well, we have some really beautiful contrast here, interesting design. We're doing something really cool, but we're still suffering from a couple of things, just slight little issues and errors. We have a little bit of an alignment issue moving up the right hand and the left hand side. This top section actually looks pretty interesting, and we could definitely think that this is hireable. But as I start to get down to the bottom section, the whole thing, because of the lack of alignment, the proximity is off. We have drop shadows that are covering things. It just starts to break down and yet again be another Behance or Dribble special and not a realistic project that could be put into production. This designer obviously was way more interested in creating something flashy, probably with some flashy interactions or animations, than they were demonstrating their ability to work on a team at scale. So with all this being said, what is hireable? What does make good sense? And what should we be aiming for to get hired as a UI designer? Today's video is sponsored by my friends over at JotForm. JotForm is the all-in-one tool for form building that makes design and development workflow a breeze. With JotForm, you can create professional forms fast, embed them into websites, and fully customize them to match your brand's look and feel. And they have a brand new feature called Workflows, which is an absolute game changer. You can automate processes like client approvals, project tracking, and team collaboration with zero coding. Imagine setting up a client feedback loop or task assignments all in one place. It's actually going to save you time to do the things that actually matter. So streamline your process today from start to finish with JotForm and their new Workflows feature. Go check out JotForm. The link is down in the description. They are trusted by millions of people worldwide. Why not you too? Here's why this type of design is hireable. Not only can we do really clean interface elements, but we're doing kind of brand and marketing design, and we're integrating that brand and marketing design in a really beautiful way into the rest of the application. There's a couple of little issues here, but for the most part, the alignment is really, really clean on both sides. We have horizontal scrolling elements here that shows me that we're using standardized patterns for both iOS and Android. This designer understands standards and they are obeying by those standards. They're not implementing anything that's too risky, too strange, too crazy. This tells me that they may be able to work in a team as part of a product design team or a UI UX team and work on a product at scale. Here's another beautiful example of hireable user interface design. There is a mature use of color. There is a little bit of self-control happening here. When it's a marketing moment, we're going to use it. Just because it's a flat color doesn't mean that it's not a creative color. The choices that are being made here are very intentional and very mature. Then when you get into the actual interface itself, not just the splash screen, we have great hierarchy in our typography, great contrast. The main thing is the main thing, which is my wallet balance. And we have a differentiation between primary, secondary, tertiary calls to action and simple user interface design like simple rows with avatars or iconography are done really, really well. Then we have things like our charts and different elements. My navigation is really clear. Just a beautiful example of clean, modern, scalable, hireable design. Let's take one more look at some hireable mobile UI work. This one is void of any sort of brand work or brand color, and it's just very photocentric, very clean, crisp UI design. I would say that if somebody was to look at this, if I was to look at this and say, do I want to hire this designer? It tells me that they know quite a bit about user interface design. This is a very toned down real estate type application, and they're doing a really good job. I'm especially intrigued by the simple and mature usage of the different interface controls we have here, like segmenting controls, very clean forward, backward interaction or tap points at the top. We have tags, chips, filters, all sorts of these interactable elements that are so needed, like radio buttons and all of that. It's a great example of standard UI design. All of these are hireable. Now, if you're looking through from top to bottom, what we've seen is an increase each step of the way through maturity, through design basics, the implementation, and the realisticness of the type of work that you're posting that could equate to getting you hired, because real companies are hiring real designers to do real work that will get out there in the world and be seen by real users. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you know when part 2 comes out, where we talk about all of that desktop work. We're gonna go through a whole nother set of examples, so make sure you're a subscriber and stick around for that one. Also, let me know down in the comments, what do you think about these designs that I presented? Am I right? Am I wrong? Are some of them hireable that shouldn't be, or vice versa? The biggest question is, where do you feel like your current skill set is at? Are you hireable in this tough market? Let me know that down in the comments. Let's start a conversation. And I hope that you're having an amazing week, designing amazing things, making amazing things, and we'll see you in the next one.